Okay, I want to talk about the DNA strands. So far, the DNA strands that most people have is the first and second DNA. Okay, two strands of DNA. The rest of the so-called redundant DNA or um, the hidden DNA, right? These are not activated, or these have been deactivated because of all this technology that's around us, that we work with computers. It is hijacking our DNA, right? It's pulling DNA from humans, right, so that it helps the computer to work, right? There may be some kind of spells that is pulling all this DNA from humans. Okay, I talked about this in my earlier video. Okay, so the first DNA that is activated for all humans or animals also is the DNA about protection, survival, all right, at the root chakra. It is for protection of our community of lives on earth, right? It's focused on survival issues, right? Community and family bonding. Okay, so the second DNA strands is about healing the sacral chakra, which is about fertility. It is also about teaching, healing, right? To have that Christ light, right? To have Christ consciousness, to be of service to others, to help within the family or within friends, within the community, right? To care for each other, okay? To care about people, to care about animals. Okay, that's also another level of the family bonding or bonding in a larger group of people. Okay, so we have these two strands. All right, the third strand of DNA is about gut feeling. All right, to trust in the gut feeling. All right, all of us have that gut feeling, but because of certain food that's not healthy, that has chemicals, that is not that has some pesticides, right? For some of the herbs or plants, vegetables, right? That's sprayed with insecticides. This can actually hurt our gut or to block our digestive systems, right? So the third strand of DNA is very important. Okay, it helps us to receive divine messages. Okay, so if your gut is blocked, this can be a problem for you to receive your intuition, right? To receive guidance from the higher consciousness, right? So the gut is very important, right? So in order to have good gut health, you have to be selective with food. You have to clean the food and water, right? Whether with intentions to quite like your food and water, or to make sure that the food that you eat does not contain any pesticides, does not, you try to refrain from, taking Western medications. Okay, the body can self-heal if you stop eating all this inorganic food, right? It must be natural and organic, as organic as it can be. Okay, so the water, try to refrain from drinking a lot of those sugar, gaseous drinks like, Coke, FNN, those kinds of gassy, even caffeine, right? Coffee. All these are not good for the gut. It's not good for your gastric. Okay, so when we try to clear our stomach, our solar plexus, it's going to strengthen our gut feeling, right? Our intuition. Okay, so you can bring your third strand of DNA back to yourself. Okay, you can reactivate it back yourself. For all those working with computers, right, you can intentionally pull back all your DNA strands back to yourself every time you work with computers. Okay, so you need to heal your body. Make sure after you have completed your work, you have to shut it down, right? Switch off the power, right? Do not leave it on, or do not on the power when you sleep. Okay, you have to off it completely. And so the fourth strand of DNA is actually another layer of healing energy with universal life force, something like Reiki, right? The universal life force is all around us. Okay, we have to restore back this universal life force. A lot of the technology has been overtaking a lot of these universal life force because it's consuming way too much electricity. That means it is trying to override the universal life force. It uses a lot of electricity, right? Especially all these very huge consumptions of electricity of CERN and hub. Okay, I really try to decommission as much of the technology as possible. Otherwise, the Earth cannot survive for long. You know, if we keep on having all this huge consumption of technology and electricity on Earth, right? It is not in proportion with what we can withstand. Okay, our human body consciousness, even source, the angels, they cannot take this kind of technology, right? Some inventors are being irresponsible and they did not calculate in terms of the protons, the light, how much of the electrons have been generated that is in over excessive. That is actually not ideal, right? They produce too much of the electrons that is in detriment to our human body. You know, our body is made of light, but they are stealing our light to produce the electricity, right? So this actually densifying our body construct, is densifying our spirituality. So which is why a lot of people feel cut off from connecting to source, right? A lot of them, you know, they are like focused on mundane material life. They forgot their connection with the Creator, right? Even if you go to church, right? What are you connecting with? It is not source, right? It is the demons that you're connected to. All these are not of light, right? When you go to church, the information that they deliver is right based on the books, right? But do you feel enlightened, you know, when they deliver all this? Some of them may contain a bit of light, right? When I clear all this technological poison from the system, right? Otherwise, they are more connected with Lucifer and all these Vatican satanic forces, okay? Which is why there are, you know, events of pedophilia, right? Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and all those super rich elites, right? Connected to those kind of forces, okay? So this is quite a critical thing that, you know, happened because of technology, okay? So this is why we need to pull back our strands of DNA to recover back our human organic form. Alright, formally why we think that this universe is holographic is also because of this. Alright, CERN is actually a hologram. How does it feel hologram? Is because some of these entities, some of the so-called lost souls that passed on, they want to come back. But because they have not ascended, that's why, you know, they have to keep recycling to come back on Earth. They have nowhere else to go, alright? They feel disconnected from source, and so it's unable to let them go up, you know, go back to the heavens because these souls are not doing any spiritual work, right? Because they have been connecting to the satanic forces that is keeping them densified and kept them in those low vibrations of greed, lust, temptations, right, sex, drugs, right, all these bad vices. So this is why all these are creating a lot of blockages on Earth. And so healing to the, you know, the first 4 strands of DNA is important for us to retain back our humanity.